Hey guys, it's Vanessa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different. What I'm going to be doing is telling you my story about my weight gain and how I got to the place that I was before I had my RNY, and as well as kind of my journey to getting to having an RNY. It's probably going to be a little bit of a longer video, and I'm totally fine with that, but I totally also understand if you don't want to watch this whole thing, so feel free to just skip this one, and I'll be back for a weekly update next Thursday. But I just got done with my walk, and I'm feeling really kind of reflective, and there's a lot to my story. I mean, you don't get to be 500 pounds without a long story. So that's kind of what we're going to go through today. I will be driving while I do this, basically just because there's a lot of sadness to the story for me. So I do want to kind of keep my mind to focus on a little bit of other things as well, so that I don't have to kind of get into like a dark headspace about it. That being said, just kind of a little bit of a trigger warning. There will be kind of talk of sexual abuse and just kind of some dark stuff, self-harm, things like that. So if that's something that makes you uncomfortable to hear about, no judgment at all. You got to be in a headspace to handle things like that. So I'll just see you on Thursday if that's something you can handle. But otherwise, if you're interested in hearing about my story and my journey to having weight loss surgery, just stay tuned. Okay, so to do this story right, I've kind of got to take you back really far and tell you a little bit about how I grew up. So I wouldn't say I was definitely not a thin toddler, baby, etc., etc. I do have, on both sides of my family, we're definitely thicker people, fuller. I'm half black on the African American side of my family. We've got big boobs, big butts, thick thighs. Like, that's just kind of how it is, and I love it, and I'm hopeful that after all is said and done, I still maintain those family characteristics. But on my mom's side, there are a history of weight problems as well. So I didn't really start off with a good set of genetics in terms of having a healthy figure. So nutrition was going to be very important for me, and my grandma says that she, told my mom as I was, a child, that she's going to have to watch me because I have kind of a disadvantage when it comes to genetics. So she's going to have to pay attention to my nutrition and what I eat and watching my weight. And my grandma, of course, always makes sure to say, like, she thinks I'm beautiful and perfect, and it was just that she knew the struggles that I could potentially have, and she wanted to try to help me avoid that. So while I wasn't a very small child, there was a shift of when I really started to put on weight. And that happened after I turned 5. When I was 5 years old, I had a family member sexually abuse me multiple times. My dad wasn't around at the time. I'm pretty sure if he was, I don't think it would have happened. If a lot of things happened differently, that wouldn't have happened. But a family member, an adult family member, did take advantage of me and sexualize me as a 5-year-old. That same year, my parents were divorced at the time. My parents were married and divorced to each other twice. So at the time, my mom was with somebody else. She was kind of just focused on her boyfriend. She wasn't really too focused on us kids. But while she was with her boyfriend, we were kind of just left to do what we wanted to do a little bit. And of course, like I said, I was 5. I had a neighbor of her boyfriend's. We pretty much, I think we lived with her boyfriend. I don't really remember for certain, but it felt like we were over there all the time. And a neighbor of his, there was I think he was a young teenager. It's kind of fuzzy. I think he was around one of my big brother's ages. So I think he was maybe even just 10 years old. But he forced me to get naked, and touched me sexually. I didn't want to, but I didn't say no, because by that time I had already been sexually abused by my second cousin, who, I was told to be good, and I was always a very obedient child. I liked to be good. I liked to listen, and so I listened, and I didn't I didn't say no, I didn't scream, I didn't run, I didn't do anything with my second cousin, and therefore when it happened to me again, I also didn't do anything. I just was quiet and shut down and let it happen. And then must have been later that same summer, we were at my mom's boyfriend's family's house, and they had a friend come over, and a girl who was a teenager, she brought me out into one of the cars while the adults were inside, just drinking and hanging out and stuff, and she told me she was going to show me what adults do to each other, and she touched me sexually as well, even though I tried to say I just wanted to go inside, back with my mom. And so that all happened in probably the span of six months or so, but it was all definitely while I was 5 years old. And so I was sexualized very, very young, and it was just too much trauma for me to handle. My parents were also divorced at the time. My dad was in jail, kind of ironically taking the fall for my second cousin, who ended up sexually abusing me while my dad was in jail for his crime. But either way, it was a lot. It's a lot for a child's brain to handle, and what our bodies do to protect us sometimes when we can't handle something is we shut it off. And so I repressed the memories of my abuses for years. It would come out in little ways because, it's still there. There's still a physical imprint that happens to you where you just kind of never feel clean, and you don't know how to say no, and you just let people do whatever people are going to do. You kind of lose your sense of agency. So what I did to kind of express that I was trying to process this, there's a couple things. I remember telling my grandmother and my mom that I didn't want to have to hug my cousin anymore because he gave me sloppy kisses, and that was the best way I could think to describe to them kind of what was happening to me. I didn't really have the words. And that's the other thing about kids who are sexually abused is that they're so little, they don't have the language to explain what's happening to them. And so as adults who are obviously responsible for looking for signs for what's happening to children, we have to look for other things that tell us, and sometimes it's just impossible to see until it's too late. And I know my grandmother feels a lot of guilt about not realizing that that's what I was trying to say, because the abuse happened at her house, but certainly not in her presence. And my grandmother would murder for me. There's no doubt in my mind that she would have stopped it if she had any indication. I just didn't have the language to tell her, and that's okay. There's only one person at fault for what happened there. But Another thing I did, I remember I was a very nerdy child. Like, I love to learn, still do, still a nerd. And I would look up words in the dictionary just to learn new words. And I would do this even in like first grade. So I was like 6, 7 years old. And I found the word rape. And I remember, it's almost like I remember seeing the word, seeing what it meant. I'd never heard the word rape before. I was just reading the dictionary like a freaking dork. And read it and read the definition, and I felt something inside me click, and I remember just shutting that shit down. I think I might have been 7 by that time, but I just turned it off. Nope, can't deal with it, not happening. By that time, I was already gaining weight. When I was in first grade, I remember stealing food from my classmates' lunch boxes. Like, someone left food for snack time. They didn't want to take it, and so I took it and I ate it. And I remember getting in trouble for it, but I don't think the teacher really understood what I was doing. And now this time of my life is a little fuzzy because I was on free lunch at the time. My family was really not doing well financially. We were really poor. So I don't know that I always had enough to eat. But I do know that I also felt comforted by food. The only thing that comforted me in a way that food did was reading. And getting lost in the world of books that I would read, and of characters who had lives that I wish I had, that felt so normal. And I always wanted to be normal, and seeing like the friends I had, I never felt like I really connected with anybody as a friend because they all had normal lives. And even though I wasn't willing or ready or even able to process why, I just felt so different and broken. So fast forward a few years, let's go to where my most significant memory of my weight gain. So obviously once I was 5, I started eating more and more and more. My mom pretty much let me eat whatever I wanted. My mom, bless her heart, she experienced even worse sexual trauma than I did. Far worse. And so despite whether she should have been a mother, was a good mother, blah, 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 doesn't matter. She was also a victim. And broken people don't always make the best choices. So what she wanted to do was be my friend. So she wanted to make me happy, and she gave me whatever I wanted, which was food. Now, we couldn't afford a lot, so it's not like I got a lot of food, but the food quality we had, we got the cheapest things. Cheapest things are the worst things for you. And so that's kind of what I ate. And when I was 8 years old, I remember going to the pediatrician. Her name was Dr. Hightower, and I remember she told my mom, I don't remember if my dad was there, but she told her that I was 9 pounds away from being 200 pounds as an 8-year-old. And, you know, that is where changes should have been made, you know, if they hadn't been changed before. But I started puberty when I was 9, so this means that as any post-pubescent age, I have never been under 200 pounds. So my biggest weight loss goal is to get to 200 pounds. That's the goal. Or 199, or no, 191. Let's say 191, because then that's exactly where I was when I was 8. But either way, under 200, and I'm somewhere I've never been as a post-pubescent adult. So I continued to gain weight the next few years, just on and on and on. I wouldn't say rapidly, but steadily, because I was a very, not inactive. I mean, we spent a lot of time outside. I went to Florida to visit my aunt in the summers, and I was very active then. I would always drop a little bit of weight when I was there, and then I'd go back up when I'd come back to living with my mom. But I was a reader and a writer and just very not introverted in a personality way, but more just anxious. So I liked small groups, or I like to be alone. My favorite tasks, my favorite hobbies were isolated hobbies. They were not physical activities. Now, I was a cheerleader, but cheerleading isn't at that age isn't very athletic. It is eventually, but when I did it, it was not. So it didn't really give me much physical activity, and it was still a lot to try to overcome the food that I was eating. So fast forward a little bit till I was 11. When I was 11, I started having flashbacks and memories of the abuse. And it destroyed me. Is kind of the best way to put it. It broke me even more than I was already broken. I felt so dirty and guilty and confused and scared, and I just wanted to die. I just was like, there's nothing good about me. I am used up and disgusting. No one's ever going to want me because of my body. No one's ever going to be attracted to me, and anyone who is attracted to me just wants to hurt me. So I continued to use food, but in addition to that, I began cutting myself, burning myself, starving myself, and then binging on food. I tried to kill myself. God, I don't know how many times. I just wanted it to be over. I just wanted this horrible pain. Like, apparently my body thought it was time to remember, but I have read that puberty, which while I started puberty at 9, I feel like it really kicked in at 11. And that's when I started remembering. They say that around puberty is when the memories kind of start coming back with people who forget their trauma, or who bury their trauma, because you never really forget it. So what I did was I had to go in the hospital, an inpatient psychiatric facility, as an 11-year-old, then a 12-year-old, then a 13-year-old, then a 14-year-old. I mean, I went dozens of times, because I would do well when I'd get into the hospital where everything was stable and I had support and people could explain to me why things were happening to me that were happening to me. And everything made sense. And I tried to learn the coping skills. I learned the coping skills that I needed when I came home. But the thing is, when you take a severely traumatized child, put them into a stable environment, and then throw them back into chaos, it's doomed to fail. And there was nothing to be done about that. I had to go back and live with my mom where things were chaotic. She always had new boyfriends, but she also was trying to keep me alive because I just wanted to die. And it was fucking chaos. It was chaos. And I went back, and it was within a few weeks I was back in the hospital again, because I needed to be somewhere where things were okay again. So what I did, I continued to eat. When I was 15, I went into long-term residential hospital, which meant I wasn't suicidal, but I had behavioral issues that needed to be worked on, which were was my depression, my anxiety. By that time, I just become so selfish and just focused on my own trauma. I couldn't think about anybody but myself. It sounds just like a normal teenager. I don't know whether it was the right call or the wrong call. It was the call that was made, and I went into residential hospital at Cincinnati Children's. I was there for 7 months, and during that 7 months, I mean, I must have, if I look back at pictures, I was probably 300 300 pounds, well over 3, maybe even 340. I don't know. I was definitely in the 300s by that time. So I went ahead and went in the hospital. They put me on a 900 calorie diet. It was not tracking protein. It was not tracking carbs or sugar or fat. It was literally just tracking calories. So since it was a hospital, I got whatever the people on the floor got, except they would just cut it into small portions to equal 900 calories. So I was basically starved. I wasn't getting proper nutrients. I certainly wasn't getting the proper amount of protein. It was a very small-minded view of nutrition, but it was successful. It made me lose weight. I also was walking around the gym a lot. I grew a lot in that 7 months that I was there. I don't know. I wanted to eat everything. I still wanted to binge and use my feelings because I didn't have cutting as a relief anymore because I was in the hospital where I was watched. I couldn't. I listened to music a lot. I read a lot, but I wanted to eat. I wanted something that just felt good and easy and just would make things better right away. I got out of residential and things were good for a while until they weren't. And then when they weren't, I told my mom that I was tired of going in and out of the hospital and that I wanted to try something different, and I asked her to let me go into foster care. I was hospitalized at the time, and I was talking to the hospital about it once I got stable and not trying to kill myself. That time it was a lot to do with my medication. I was on Cymbalta. Now, if you see a commercial for Cymbalta, it'll tell you that it's not for children or teenagers. I'm one of the statistics that got suicidal thoughts as a teenager from that, because I was doing better, but I still was living in chaos, and I wanted to try something different. I asked my mom about foster care, and she agreed. So I was put into a group home first while they were looking for a placement for me. I came up with this long list of questions that I wanted to ask the foster family. Like, I was interviewing them, like, are you the right family for me to stay with, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a family come visit me at the group home, the Dillians, and they I still remember the look on their faces when I handed them this 3-page packet of questions they had, and they were like, why don't you just pick a few questions and we'll kind of go from there. But they said that was something that they loved, that made them want me, because they could see how much I wanted to be better and I wanted to change, and they really wanted kids who had potential that they could really help. And I was one of those kids. They had been foster parents for a long time. They had 4 biological kids of their own. So I went to live with them, and I was with them for 7 months. And they changed my life. They gave me a stable home. They gave me love. They gave me support. And I was not always easy. I came from chaos. I was used to chaos, which meant when things were good and there were no problems, I was going to create one, because that's what I knew how to deal with. I didn't know how to deal with peace and happiness. So, well, I created crazy chaos. And they stayed steady. They loved me. They supported me. Is this still filming? Yeah, it is. And they both actually had weight loss surgery. They had gastric bypass years before, and they helped me pursue a program at Cincinnati Children's, because they will do gastric bypass or at least at the time, this was in 2006, so I don't know if they still do it, but they will do weight loss surgery on teenagers. So you have to answer all these essay questions, and like, they really vet you, make sure that you can handle it. So I started that process. I studied everything I could about weight loss surgery. I was ready. I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a healthy weight. I'm going to be able to have a stable life. This family wanted to adopt me. They wanted me to be one of their kids. And I was ready. I was ready for all the positive changes in my life to happen. I was so ready for it. I was in the midst of the program. We had some meetings with my mom. During that time, my mom was, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I really want to just kind of keep this focused on my weight loss surgery journey and my weight gain story. So I won't say too much more about my mom, but things were complicated with her. And like I said, the family wanted to adopt me, and they also would have wanted to adopt my little brother, who was still living at home with my mom. Not because my mom was abusing us, but she was not able to properly take care of us. We were sleeping on the floor. If we had a place, we've lived in our van. It was just chaos. It was not an environment for children. She had a bed, but me and my brother had to sleep on the floor. We didn't have a couch, we didn't have a table. We had food occasionally. It was not an environment for kids. But the thing is that with the foster system so overloaded, it has to be pretty freaking bad for them to take you from your family, which is why I went into foster care willingly. Like, my mother allowed me to. She did not give up custody. Custody was not taken from her. It should have been, but it wasn't, because the foster system's already so overloaded with children of abusers and drug addicts. I had a girl that I lived with while I was in foster care, who her dad was treating her as his wife, was raping her, and he was using his daughter, his 13-year-old daughter, as his wife. It's just fucking disgusting and horrible. And she had to end up going back to him. He got her back. And so that's how screwed up the system is. People who have kids shouldn't always have kids. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I could talk forever about that. And this video is already 25 minutes after the intro. So we're gonna get here, guys. So my mom decided rather suddenly that she wanted me to come home. Once she found out that my foster family wanted to adopt me, she didn't want me back, but she didn't want my foster family to have me. And that spun me back into chaos. So when I went back home, lived with my mom, I went back downhill. I kept gaining and gaining. I probably stayed in the 3s for the longest amount of time. And then I went off to college. And I'm going to kind of fast forward through this part because my weight steadily gained. But I met my wife when I was 18. And if you've dated anybody, you know, dating someone comes with weight gain. Like, it just does. You eat together. You just want to lay around and love each other and blah, 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 like the gross stuff. So I gained weight. It's a little, kind of slowly. It feels like it didn't happen for the first couple years, but so eventually I gained weight, and I stopped being able to do things. That was the problem. I stopped being able to go on walks. It was getting to the point where I was having to use a cart in Walmart. I don't even think I was at my highest weight when this happened, but I was just so physically incapable. Oh my goodness, lean. Okay. I was just so physically incapable that I had to use a cart because I wouldn't be able to make it through the full store. And we were still really poor. We still ate very, very badly. Horribly. I never learned how to eat properly, so by that time it was kind of just a habit, you know, and got to a place, let's see if I'm remembering correctly, it's 2015, late 2015, my wife kind of laid down the law, so to speak. I just ended up at a dead end. I've just been driving around aimlessly. I actually ended up at my college I'm going to be going to in the spring. Oops. Okay, I know where I am kind of now. But anyway, so basically she was not going to take this anymore. She was not going to sign on for a life with somebody she couldn't live with. You know, I wasn't alive. I was barely getting by, and I was just getting worse and worse and worse. I was able to do less and less. So I'm just going to park and wrap this video up. Here we go. Now, you should never have weight loss surgery for somebody else. You shouldn't really even consider it, having it for somebody else. And so I knew that. But she wasn't messing around. You know, like, we were never going to get married. We may not even have a future together at all if something didn't change. And I thought about it, but I also knew I was not going to make the changes I needed to make for her. It had to kind of come from me. And so I kept trying to lose weight and trying to lose weight on my own, but I would just slip back like I did. Weight Watchers, a few times. It never stuck. Because here's the thing. I don't know exactly how much I weighed, but I know that it was a fucking lot, and I had at least 200 pounds to lose to be a healthy weight. And it felt insurmountable. I mean, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to stick to this plan of feeling like so freaking deprived if I'm only losing like 2 pounds in 2 weeks? Or, you know, like, I was like, it's going to be like 15 years. Like, she's going to leave me by then. What's the point? And it just wasn't good. But I had kind of dropped the weight loss surgery thing back as a teenager. I mean, it's always been in the back of my mind. I wanted it, but it needed to be the right time. I needed to be financially stable. I needed to be emotionally stable. Okay, sorry, my camera overheated since I've been driving around in the sun for so long. But what I was saying was, I didn't want to have the surgery until I was emotionally, mentally ready, especially financially, because it's a huge financial commitment to have this surgery. So what I did was I did a lot of reflection after failing to, you know, figure it out on my own. I looked back into weight loss surgery and decided it was the right time. I have a good job. I had short-term disability I was going to be able to take, so I could take time off after. It was the right time, and I was ready to make a change. So it was not even a month after that conversation my wife and I had, I had an appointment at OSU, Ohio State University, for their orientation for their weight loss surgery program. And it was in this like big hall. Like, there were, like, you know, in college, like when you have a class with like 100 people in it and it's in those big auditorium style things, that's what this was like. It just felt so overwhelming, and there were so many people in there looking for, it was just the information session in the beginning. But I got the process started. I did my 6 monthly visits. I think that's what I did. Yeah, I did my 6 monthly visits. I did my 6 monthly visits. The problem was, I went to see the psychologist. The psychologist for the psych eval failed me. It was like, as soon as I said I was sexually abused, it was like his face went blank. And he was like, oh, fail. It's like, you need to be in therapy for a while before I'll approve you for surgery. And I was like, I've been in therapy since I was 11. I've been in therapy. I did not need to go to therapy. It was like he just wrote me off immediately. And I've heard from other people in the OSU program that they experienced that with this particular psychologist as well, that he just kind of sees himself as the gatekeeper to weight loss surgery, and he decides who goes and who doesn't. So I started therapy. I kept doing my 6 monthly visits because that's what was required for my insurance. And then I did the psych eval with my therapist instead, like the second one, which I then had to pay for. It was like hundreds of dollars. I'd already paid $400 for the first psych eval that failed me. I finished the psych eval with her. I had to do it over like 5 sessions. And it wasn't exactly the same as the one he did. I don't know. It was kind of confusing and all over the place. But she faxed everything to OSU, and they continually said, oh, we didn't get it. We didn't get it. We faxed it. I mean, I don't know, a dozen times. And I said, look, she just faxed it. Can you go to the fax machine right now? And they're like, oh, that's not how it works. Another department gets the fax and then they notify us. And she's like, we'll call you as soon as we get it. I followed up with them for weeks. And it was like they were blackballing me. Like they were like, well, you're just not getting this surgery because I didn't go back to that original psychologist. But you're not required to see their psychologist. I just did it because he was who was recommended. And I didn't know any other psychologists at the time. So I felt like they blackballed me from the surgery. I mean, they were pretending they didn't get it. I mean, it's a fax machine. It's the most basic of technology. They got the psych evals. If there was a problem, they could have said, well, why don't you just certify mail it, something like that. But it was nothing. No, it needs to come by fax. So I don't know. I just got so freaking discouraged because I was like, well, what am I doing here? So I decided, you know what, enough's enough. My wife had a coworker at the job she used to have who had weight loss surgery here in Columbus as well, but through Ohio Health, and she had a great experience. She had Dr. Rana. She said he was amazing, and she recommended the program. So I was like, you know what, fuck at OSU. We're gonna go to Ohio Health and see what happens. So I went to the information session. I mean, it's starting all the way over because by this point it's been it was to the next calendar year. So my 6 visits that I did, they no longer counted. So I went to the Ohio Health information session, and it was like night and day from the OSU one. I mean, it was small, it was personal, we were able to ask questions in like a very small group session. They just seemed so much more authentic and genuine about understanding obesity and the challenges, and they had a really holistic view of the person, you know, wanting to focus on the mental health and nutrition and not just like, let's just give you a surgery and send you on your way. Not that OSU would have been that way, but I never got a chance to find out. So it was Ohio Health clearly, like from that first information session, I knew. I was like, this is it. This is the right one for me. And I was like, this is real. This is happening. And from that day on, that was January, it was like the end of December, I think. I have to check. It might be the end of November, end of December, something like that. It was December. So by that point, I was like, oh, like this is it. I'm ready. Like this is happening. I cut out pop because that's something we had to do. I cut out caffeine. I cut out sugar. I was on my shit, and I started dropping weight so fast. I lost 8 pounds in the first couple days because my body was just holding on to all this stuff, and it was like ready for this. It was like, yes, bitch, okay, we knew you could do this. Let's get it done. And my body, I just like immediately felt so much better. Now by this point, I could walk around the store a little bit. I wasn't using the cart anymore, so I was already a little bit physically healthier. But going through the Ohio Health program, yes, it sucks that it takes 6 months. You know, you have to do your nutrition visits, and the insurance requires things. But oh my God, guys, it is so worth it. So worth it, because I got all that time to prove to myself like that I can do this. This tool is going to help make sure that the actions I'm taking, no, I'm not gonna go that way, I'm gonna go straight, that the actions I'm taking work. Like that's what it was gonna do, and it was amazing. So I started following Instagram accounts, and I followed Mini Me in Tennessee on YouTube. She's who inspired this channel, and Like, I was obsessed with consuming weight loss surgery content. Like, that's all I cared about. Like, anything to keep me focused. Following the Berrytastic social page on Facebook here. Like, I still look at it several times a day because... Okay. So this is gonna be the last clip, I promise. I just got home, my camera overheated, and then when I took it down off my car mount, I dropped it on the floor by my feet. So I was like, this is a sign. Wait till you get home. It's time to go home. You've been driving around forever. But like, I just got home. I need to have another meal. I have to take my next dose of medicine. I really have to pee. But if you guys are watching this straight through, then the least I can do is just finish filming it. So basically, going to Ohio Health and feeling that this surgery actually was going to happen for me, that something good, like truly good, was going to happen in my life, outside of my wife. Obviously, she's amazing and wonderful. She's not public on Instagram, but you probably, if you follow me, you may know who she is. And just us both getting our health over that time, it wasn't an ultimatum. She didn't say, I'm going to leave you if. She was just saying, like, what kind of life are we going to have? Like, what kind of life can we have if you can't do anything that we want to do together? I'm basically living by myself, you know? So our relationship got so strong and so much deeper. And I'm just thinking about her. I love her so much. But anyway, so going through this journey, she was with me every step of the way. And I kept losing weight. I just made such big changes in my life because I was like, these actually matter. This tool is going to help me. Actually, these things I'm changing are actually going to work now. And that was incredible. So, I had my surgery at Ohio Health with Dr. Rana. He is the best. I'm telling you, if you live in Ohio, I don't care where you live in Ohio, and you want this surgery, come to Ohio Health and see Dr. Rana. The entire team is incredible. If you get a nutritionist, get Shalana. She is the best. I drive 30 minutes to see her because she's in one of like our outside of Columbus offices, but I don't care because she is incredible and I love her. So anyway, I just had such a great team. I had such a great support. I have my wife, I have my parents, I have my grandmother. My parents, when I say my parents, I mean my dad and my stepmom. And my brothers and my sisters-in-law. So anyway, I have a great support team. I knew that I could do this. And I still was going through therapy this entire journey, through the last, through my 6-month program and everything. Now, as got time for surgery, I was like, okay, I can't be doing all these appointments. So I stopped doing therapy, but the therapy was more maintenance anyway. I've kind of already dealt with everything. Now, something that's traumatic is what happened to me. And I only went into some of the traumas that I experienced, but they don't just go away. So there are still ways that it affects me. But the thing is that it's a part of me now. And instead, basically, I brought all this weight on my body to protect me from the horrible things happening to me, to protect me from it happening again. And it worked. For the most part, it worked. And so, but now I'm ready to shed this layer of protection, this armor, and just know that my real armor is on the inside, that I am a strong person and that I protect myself and I say no. If I don't want something to happen, it doesn't happen. I am not a pushover anymore. Except for my wife, because I love her and I want her to have everything. But otherwise, I'm not. And I don't know. Thank you guys for watching this video. I just had my surgery. I'm almost 8 weeks out, I think. This week, I think I'll be 8 weeks. And I'm doing great. I'm 414 pounds today. And I was at my highest recorded weight, 501 pounds. And we're only going down from here. So if you made it through this whole video, thank you. Hope you got like snacks or water or wine or something while you were doing it, because I was driving around to have distractions. Hopefully you were doing something, doing the dishes, cleaning your house, I don't know, something while you're watching this. But anyway, thank you for watching and listening to my story. I really want to hear yours. So if you want to email me, I think my email is attached to this YouTube account. I have an email specifically for this account. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm going to be going through mine today because I know I have a few that I haven't gotten to check yet. But just thank you for listening.
It meant a lot to me. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.